Hey there you, it's Glenn from Backlands Fish. Sunday Arvo has rolled around again. It's 3 o'clock knockoff time and I've got a bit done once again. I'll see you on the other side and we'll go through a couple of things. See you soon. Well, this week's been hard work, maybe not so much work in the fish room as such, but a little bit of the clerical stuff that goes into organising some sales, and I'm participating in sending fish to the New South Wales Cichlid Society AGM and raffle, their major meet next weekend on the 2nd of August, and so this week's been a bit of prep for moving some fish and getting stuff ready and telling them what's available and so on and so forth. A bit of clerical, which can chew up a lot of time when you don't have much. Looking forward to getting into these couple of big tanks on the bottom here, and between the raffle and a sale that's going up to Craig. Thanks Craig for your support. We're going to clear out a heap of these Venustus and these yellows and some Lalupi and a few other bits and bobs off to the Sydney market, and some hopeful like-minded cichlid keepers at the raffle and AGM at the NSWSC. So going to be up late next Friday night and early Saturday morning getting all that done. Lots of fishies going. What I've done this week, maintenance wise, we got down here and did some work on a tank that was kind of stalled out. The key player I'm trying to get rolling with here is this Victorian cichlid, the Pundamalia Nyurai. These are the Python Island variant. I've got two variants. The Pythons are less common, maybe a tiny bit less colourful, but I'll roll a bit of B-roll here where I've only just dropped these Manganos in the last half hour or so, and that's caused a little bit of fun and games with the dominant male Python, and he's looking pretty sharp. So that's something that I hope will stabilise now and we can get the Pythons breeding. And I'm trying to work out how many little Manganos I've got left here that are going to be females and whether I can get a colony of them up, rolling and performing. Down the row. We did that one the other day. I won't show you that again. This has only just happened in the last few minutes. I'm just going to pause for a second, straighten the camera up. Now, we're not looking like much here just at the minute because I've literally just walked inside to pour my 3 o'clock knockoff glass of wine, and this tank I just finished filling prior. So the Manganos we just looked at were in this tank up until an hour or so ago. They kind of stalled out in with these albino pindanis. There's 10 of those in here. Didn't have any breeding result out of this tank, and that doesn't surprise me because they were all thrown in here as a bit of a hold. But what I've done is I've left the 10 pindanis, and what we're seeing in front here are these beautiful little black orange dorsal litterbaits that I got from Bill and mentioned in last week's video, I think it was. So the 10 of these have just been dropped into this tank, which is their sort of final home now, and we look forward to getting some size on and hopefully getting them breeding soon. They're pretty cool little critters. We've got a male down here that we can see a bit of colour on top of, even at just under 6 centimetres I'd be guessing, and he's looking like he's liking that cave there, so that's pretty cool. This tank I've just cleaned up, and it looks a tiny bit more cloudy than the one underneath because I have fully salted this one. I haven't fully salted the one down bottom yet. I've got to do that after I finish filming. We moved out of this tank a group of red Reuben peacocks, which were sort of thrown in here to grow up, and they have now hit size and have started to produce. And obviously with peacocks, I don't like running them with Malawis because of the hybridisation risk. And the fish that I'm hoping to work with here, hap-wise, is the Protomelus fenestratus devani eastern, which are still juvenile in this case, so nowhere near breeding yet. But given, like I said, the peacocks starting to produce, I just thought I needed to get that resolved sooner rather than later. We've also got in here some yellowtail ACI, the Pseudotropheus ACI Masulu point, and I've just stripped my first one of those, having not bred any since Christmas when I lost my colony. And these little guys up front are something a bit out of my not comfort zone, but something out of my wheelhouse. These are actually an American cichlid, the rainbow cichlid, and they are one of the random sort of Americans that does perfectly fine in quite hard water, and the higher pH doesn't bother them at all. So we've got six here. These are a pair bonding fish, and I always advocate with trying to get a good pair by letting them pick each other out as couples. So I've bought 6 with a view to getting a pair. We've got a few pots in the corners that hopefully they'll take to at some point, and they're coming along pretty nice from a colour point of view. They're probably still a tiny bit young, and they've only just gone in here too. So we just now wait for the dynamic to settle down, and we'll see how they get along. I've gone with the ACI here because they're not terribly aggressive for a Malawi, and I think we'll be okay. Nice little point of difference for me. This was a job that was months in the necessity of getting to. I've got 6 of these lovely orange top Cordopunctatus, Lamprologus cordopunctatus. I threw them in here once again to try and get a pair out. I go with smaller fish, I go into these longer tanks because I can set up good habitat at either end and kind of wait for a pair to take over a spot, and then slip a divider in and get rid of excess fish, which was always the plan. But these seem to be kind of a little bit menage a trois at the moment. I think I see a good pair at one end, and I slip the divider in and one fish will dart out, and it's been quite the challenge. But anyway, I got in here today and I did pull out 18 little juveniles that are about 15 mil long, so not a great yield by any stretch. These things will produce good broods in the right situation, so there's obviously been some predation there, but they're looking good. I'm just desperate to isolate a good pair and possibly a second pair because they're a lovely little fish and a good seller. Don't need a big footprint or anything tank wise, so not a bad little candidate as a breeding project. Something else we've just pulled apart, and whoop, up we go. These are some blue regal peacocks, the Alonocara Coningsi Mabenji Island. Got some beautiful boys down front here. I bred quite a few of these late last year, which was a good thing because I lost my colony in that incident that I'll tell you all about in the Big Fish Room Tour video coming up soon. Thankfully I had 30 or 40 left, and those juveniles are now hitting their straps where we can and should expect some breeding pretty soon based on the colour of these boys down front. So I've thrown them all together here. I've got to send a few up to the raffle, the AGM raffle, as mentioned earlier, next week. But I'll be making sure that I keep myself a nice little colony, and we watch this space to get them running again. And finally, I think I'll round out on this. This was the red Reuben peacocks I just spoke about that were around the back with the ACI and the Stevani Easterns. So here's our clear dominant male down front. I think I've got about 8 fish in total here. I'm not sure how many sneaker males I got, but we did strip 2 fish today, so we've got one little amount here of free swim fry. I think I don't think it was 20, but it was 15 plus, so it's a start. These are a Thai imported line of red Reubens, and you can visit my other video about the whole red Reuben thing. This is a sort of a line bred extension of an existing fish in the wild, so it's not, in my opinion, what you would call a hybrid. It causes a bit of speak in the trade as to whether they're a legitimate thing, but in my opinion they're good to go. And from experience, people are often chasing red fish for display males, so you can't argue that that's not a red fish. And the other, out of that same tank, we did produce a mouthful of eggs that were obviously in need of some tumbling, so we've got some of those in here. And one of the ACI was holding as well, so there's 8 or 10 eggs in there from the ACI. So a small yield at the end of a long week. Not a lot of breeding to talk about, but plenty of fish movements. We've set up our yellow regals that I got from Bill in a slightly bigger tank now to get them to grow. Eurekas are banging, cobways are banging on size, cobway peacock. Eurekas are going well. So that's where I'm at, folks. I'm pumping out some peacocks with a view to getting some good bloodlines available soon. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.